pies, got it.
Brandon is the loveliest guy.
Oh!
Hey!
Hello!
Hi!
Sorry, hey. Has it started?
Wyatt's gonna go out in 5 minutes to do the warm-up, 10 minutes.
Nice.
And then
Ooh,
we're...
look at all this.
Pie! Apple.
Ooh.
Oh, this one, I don't know why it's in the box of someone.
Apple pie?
Yeah.
I put it in.
My friend Megan, who is also working the door, is also a baker of pies. Dailypies.com. She is amazing. She's an amazing baker.
Dailypies.com.
Yep,
Dailypies.com.
They're really good. I
Yeah.
look forward to them.
Yeah,
So is
all the
Rain
time.
Man.
Yeah. For
Daily
our
pies. Gotta get daily pies. Gotta get daily pies.
for our
said that
anniversary, she made us like, I don't know, 600 of these pies, like hand pies. I know.
I think these are all apple. Am I correct?
All, you are absolutely
Did you
correct.
sniff all of them?
I mean, I don't know if I snipped all of them, but I just made some assumptions.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Night Tonight's show we have Joyelle Johnson, Eugene Mirman, Jon Benjamin, Joe Firestone, Michelle Buteau, DJ Don Will. And now, your host for the evening, the man who knows that real G's move in silence like lasagna, Wyatt Cenac.
Thank you. Thank you. That's true. Real G's do move in silence like lasagna. That's why Garfield, not a real G. His evil twin Arfield, however, a real G. Thank you for that, Don.
You know, just had
Yeah.
to exposing Garfield, man. That's the goal.
Yeah, no, get people to know about not Garfield, Arfield.
Arfield.
Yeah, it's still spelled with a G. It's just pronounced Arfield. How you doing, man?
Pretty good, man.
Yeah, things are well.
Can't complain, you know.
How are your plants doing?
They died, man.
What?
They died.
Oh, you named them. You had like 2 plants and you named them, right?
I did.
What were their names?
I don't remember their names.
What?
It was a very long, committed, loving relationship, but when they died, I just had to like move on and
Damn.
just forget they existed because the pain was too deep to bear. I think one died of root rot. Like the roots, it was too much water. If you overwater a plant, it can't take it. You know what I'm saying? You can't love anything too much.
I'm sorry about your plants, man. They were like pets to you.
They were.
Yeah, but like you were not a good owner.
I'm gonna try again. I'm gonna get one more this Christmas.
Okay, a Christmas tree that you're just gonna try to keep alive.
I'm gonna plant a tree in my apartment.
That's good though that you're gonna try again. I had a dog. I fostered a dog once. Which fostering a dog, I say I fostered a dog, and that's what you say when you adopt a dog and you realize, oh shit, I made a mistake. I took in this dog. She was a stray pit bull puppy that some people had found just running the street, and so I took her in, and let me just say, the main reason that I took her in was to stop my friends from emailing me about other dogs that they said I should adopt. So I'm just getting sick of that, because I feel like I'm single. They never email me about their friends that I should rescue. Never any emails that are like, oh, Lisa's been dating a douchebag from Goldman Sachs for 3 months, and they're thinking about moving in together. You need to rescue her. Never that. Having a dog is hard. It's hard to have a dog. Like adopting a dog, especially in the city, but it's a lot of work. But my friends, they were like, oh no, it's great. It's gonna change your life. And I remember the first night I got her, I brought her home, and she went into heat. Life changed. Which, if you don't know what heat is, It's when a female dog gets her period. And so it lasts about 3 weeks, which, when you think about that, like, 1 year is like 7 years to a dog. So that's like a 150-day long period, which there are no politicians talking about that. But she just went into heat. She was a puppy, so she'd just gone into heat, and now for like 3 weeks, she's just bleeding all over my apartment, and it looks like a vampire frat house. And it's her first time, so now I feel like the dad in a weird episode of Punky Brewster. I just don't really know what to tell her. They don't make tampons for dogs. I learned that. I also learned don't go to a pet store and ask where the tampons for dogs are. They will laugh at you to your face. Then they will laugh at you as you walk away. And years from now, when they might be dealing with some adversity in their life, they will think about the idiot who asked for dog tampons and find some solace. They don't make tampons for dogs. They do make diapers for dogs, which, if you want a fun game, try putting a diaper on a 60-pound skittish pit bull you just met. It's a fun little game. She's a pit bull, and that was an interesting thing, too, because, like, dogs are just, like, they're cute and they're fun, but, like, people have, like, preconceived notions about pit bulls. Like, people get weird about pit bulls, especially in New York. Like, we would go for walks, and I'd see people, like, move to the side, and I remember one time we were going for a walk, and there was this white woman who was walking with her child, and she saw us coming and basically just shielded her child. And as a black man, there was something about that where it felt like, hold up a second, is this about me? Or is this about her? Because she's harmless. I will eat your baby. You should see my apartment. There is blood everywhere. Even the apartment I lived in at the time, they were anti-pit bull, and there are a lot of apartments in New York that have, like, made rules where they say no pit bulls allowed. And it was crazy because I rescued this dog, so I just needed to bring her in. And I had to say she wasn't a pit bull, and fortunately, she could pass. She could, which is a very weird thing to have to Rashida Jones your dog into an apartment. It's just like, let's just leave her ethnically ambiguous, and you place what you want on her. But it's very weird, like, people are very judgy about pit bulls. I remember there'd be times where we'd be walking, and if she barked at somebody, like, I didn't look like a guy with his dog. I looked like I belonged in the background of a DMX video. But, like, way far background. Like, I'm DMX's cousin from Portland, Ronaldo, who has, like, a soul food taco truck and takes care of his 2 dogs, Nina Simone and Pizza Party. It's weird, like, you see all that, and especially out here, like, seeing how people freak out about pit bulls, it feels like pit bulls are kind of the black people of dogs. Because people stereotype them, and they don't want to live near them, and they don't mind being in hip-hop videos, and they make adorable mixed babies. She's a good dog, though. She was a lot of work. Early on, they discovered she had a chicken allergy, and so I took her to the vet, and they were like, yeah, she can't eat chicken anymore. And so I was like, oh, okay, what do I do? And they were like, well, you got to feed her, like, salmon and rice, or, like, beef and rice, or lamb and rice. And I was like, oh, okay, they make that kibble. And they were like, no, you got to cook it. And I was like, wait, what? They said, yeah, you got to cook it for her, which, again, as a single man, nothing more fun than on a Friday night going to the grocery store, buying a nice big piece of salmon, and somebody being like, oh, romantic dinner? Well, we'll see. She's got to poop first. We're a poop then eat kind of household. It was so much work, like between the cooking for her and training, like we would do training all the time, and then also walking, like we'd do 3 walks a day, and you have to wake up really early and walk the dog, and then walk in the middle of the day, and then walk at night, and it was so much, it's a lot of work, like it's so much work. And I remember at one point, I saw somebody had put up a poster for a lost dog, and I thought about calling those people and just asking them, how'd you do it? Like, how'd you lose a dog? Like, and I don't even want to lose it forever, just for like a weekend so I could sleep in. Like, is there a park you can go to or something? Because it's hard to lose a dog. Like, a dog is like a debt collector who will fuck up your couch. Like, she used to follow me everywhere. Like, I'd go to the bathroom, I'd come out, she'd be waiting right there, just like, where you been? You don't seem to mind watching me poop. It was so much work, and it's such a big responsibility. People say, oh no, having a dog is easy. No, it's not. It's a fucking responsibility. If you have a dog, like, it's a job, man. And eventually I had to give her up because I'm on the road a lot, and it was just like, I can't be there for this dog in the way that I feel like I need to be. And so I got her placed with a family in New Jersey. At least that's what I was told. No, it's fine. You don't even know this dog. If you're gonna pity anybody, pity me. But no, so she got placed with this family in New Jersey, and it's so much work. Honestly, though, the most work of having a dog is having to deal with other dog owners. Because other dog owners are terrible. They are horrible human beings. Like, we would go to the park, and I remember we went to the park one day, and it was winter, and she tripped this lady, not intentionally. She just ran into the lady fell down, and all of a sudden, like, she was like, ah, and then her friends just rushed over, and were just like, oh my God, oh! And then they were like, you've got a concussion, oh, you got a concussion, you gave her a concussion, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, it's the dog, not me, hold up a second. But they're screaming at me, and I'm like, look, I'm sorry, I don't, look, if you're gonna go to the hospital, and they're like, you're damn right, yo, no, we're going to the ER right now. And I was just like, all right, cool, look, here, take my information, just let me know what happens. My name's Wyatt. And the woman looked at me and she was like, oh, I know who you are. And then I was like, oh, I know you don't have a concussion. Yeah, this is fine then. Yeah, if you can recognize the basic cable personalities, the synapses are firing just fine. All right, you guys ready to start this show? Yeah. Thank you guys so much for coming out. Make some noise for Don Will over here making the music all night long. Make some noise for the folks here at Littlefield. They let us do this show every week. Ben in the booth, Marianne, who produces this show. There would be no show without Marianne. She books all the comedians, so if you don't like somebody, it's Marianne's fault. I absolve all responsibility. All right, we've got a fun show. This first comedian, very talented, very happy that she's here. You might have seen her on Top Chef Pennsylvania Dutch County. Ladies and gentlemen, make a lot of noise right now for Joyelle Johnson.
Yo, sister,
Yo, clap it up for Wyatt. Hi, Brooklyn. How you doing? So beautiful to be here. Oh, my goodness. I just want to share with you that I'm full of hate. You seem like a good crowd, I can tell you that. I hate my little cousin because she owes me $30. I know that sounds petty, but hear me out. I lent her the money for weed and alcohol, so it wasn't like it was for something productive, like a college application, you know? I'm a road comic. I was like, I need that $30 back. That's like 15 trips to Waffle House. I lent her the money, and I let some time go by. It was my little cousin, so I was like, you know, I lent her the money, let some time go by, sent her a text message. What's up with that 30? She responds, she's 19, so she typed 95 M's. You need to get your life together if you're asking me about $30. Exactly. Picture your little cousin saying that to you. Everybody, picture your little cousin, right? I didn't even see red, I saw fuchsia, okay? We're not in primary colors anymore, Toto. I was so mad. And the part that pissed me off about it was that I was 9 years old when she was born, and her mother was a teenager, and she used to leave her with me. And it's like, bitch, I could have killed you. Had your life in my hands a myriad of times. Now you owe me $30. I don't know how to feel about this. Her mother used to come home all 17 and irresponsible. Why'd you forget to change her? Probably 'cause I'm 9, bitch. You know what else I forgot to do today? Wipe my own ass. I'm 9 years old. I forgot to change her because I was busy watching DuckTales. Life is like a hurricane. Y'all know what I'm talking about. I wasn't thinking about changing babies. I was daydreaming about diving to a room full of gold coins with zero physical consequence. It's probably a red flag if the babysitter has the same television interest as the baby. So yeah, I forgot to change her. But what else didn't I do? I also didn't kill her. Why is nobody bringing that up? You left me with her for hours. And I did feed her, right? So we're thinking about babies. Y'all all know babies. There's only 3 things you gotta do with babies. Feed them, change them, don't kill them. Those are the 3 things you gotta do with babies. I was 9 years old. I was like, 2 out of 3 ain't bad for a 9-year-old. 2 out of 3. Also, why you don't leave your newborn with a 9-year-old. I don't feel bad about that joke because I paid $30 for it. Trying to get the hate out. I got to get the hate out. I got deadbeat dad. That's where a lot of the source of my hate comes. My deadbeat dad. Woohoo! That was an unexpected response. Don. Took me 20 years of therapy. I still can't say woohoo to that one. But I like your spirit. You can woohoo this though. My deadbeat dad was a doctor. What? Surprise! He sprinkled a little sriracha on that one. Having a deadbeat dad that's a doctor is like winning a beauty pageant at fat camp. Like it just... And I want to learn stuff about my father. You want to know where you came from, you know? Found out something accidentally through a cousin of mine. She's on dating websites. She's on Match.com, OkCupid, Tinder. She's also on SugarDaddy.com. Oh, yeah. Woohoo. She's on SugarDaddy.com, and she called me up one day, and she was like, look, I don't know how to tell you this, but I think I found your dad on SugarDaddy.com. I was like, what? Send me that link. She sends me the link. Sure enough, Dr. Deadbeats on SugarDaddy.com. First thing I noticed about his profile, he's lying about his age. In real life, he's 83. On sugardaddy.com, he's 53. Yeah, black don't crack, but calm down. I think the jig is up when you suggest a 4 p.m. date at Denny's. And I was just thinking, I was like, if there's a place you don't have to lie about being 80, isn't it sugardaddy.com? What gold digger wants a 53-year-old sugar daddy? Lie the opposite way, Dad. Go 85, 92, 106. You'll get all the bitches. So I felt like he needed some advice. So I logged onto the website and made myself a profile and sent my dad a message inviting him to join actualdaddy.com. He still hasn't responded. So of course I'm bad at dating. Deadbeat dad, bad at dating. But it's interesting to me, like, I don't know if you guys have ever had this. You ever dated somebody so strange you start Googling mental disorders? That happened to me. That happened to me recently. I had to Google sociopath. That was a fun ride. I Googled sociopath. The website that came up had pictures next to the symptoms. One of the symptoms of a sociopath is unchecked egocentricity, which was next to a picture of a person standing on a stage holding a microphone. Touché, Wikipedia. See what you did there. Another symptom of sociopath, antisocial behavior, he exhibited this by breaking up with me even though we were not together. Never even had that conversation. Called me up out of the blue, just panicked. He was like, Joyelle, I can't be in a relationship with you. And I was like, did I ask you to be in a relationship with me? He's like, no, but I know you were thinking about it. Are you breaking up with my thoughts right now? Miss Cleo, what is happening? And he was a high school track coach. I can imagine him walking up to random kids in the hallway like, you didn't make the track team. I didn't try out for the track team, coach. Well, just in case you were thinking about it. I hate you. Debbie, dad, doctor, workaholic mom, nurse. That's how they met. They met in the medical field. Anybody raised by nurses in here? Okay, a couple people. You guys know what loneliness is. They work a lot. They work a lot. My mother's a nurse. Nurses are great people. We grew up in Jersey, but now she lives in Georgia, and she told me a colorful story of a 90-year-old woman. She works in the psych ward now. There's a 90-year-old woman. She's white. She suffers from Alzheimer's and dementia. She doesn't know her family when they come visit her name, or where she is. All she does know is that we have a black president. That's all she has committed to her memory. And that's all she can talk about every day. How Barack Obama is ruining the country, and Al-Qaeda's gonna get us all. And I just had a couple thoughts about that. First thought, bitch, you live in Duluth, Georgia, okay? You know what's gonna come get you from Al-Qaeda? Before Al-Qaeda, the walkers from Walking Dead, they're gonna come get you. Because zombies don't have a sense of geographical significance. Al-Qaeda does. I think you're safe. And it's Duluth, Georgia. Not even the most important Duluth in this country. Duluth, Minnesota's definitely getting bombed before Georgia. That was the first thought. Second thought, my mother's a nurse. Nurses are intrinsically beautiful, sweet people. I'm a comedian. We are assholes. So I was like, Ma, you don't mess with her? She's like, mess with her? What do you mean? I was like, she's an old racist who doesn't remember anything? You don't mess with her? I would mess with her. Like, you don't remember anything, Weezer? That's the nickname I gave her. You don't remember anything? You don't remember your only son was gay and married that black man? You don't remember that? That must suck for you every day that I remind you of it. every single day. And last but not least, in an odd twist of fate, this woman is my biggest inspiration in life. Do you know how racist you have to be to forget your family but remember that you hate black people? That's dedication. We should all be that dedicated to something in life. Her racism transcended a mental disorder. I want to have a racist level of dedication to comedy. If I did, this would be my show. Thank you guys for listening to me. Thank you, Marianne. Thank you, Wyatt.
Joyelle Johnson.
You look great. Hi.
Marianne is, I don't know if she's a stage manager or a producer or a booker. I just think she's a pimp.
Whenever black females see each other on a show together, like me and Michelle, we're like, oh, we're together. We're never together, because it's always like one per show. That's it. So we never see each other. So whenever we see each other, it'll usually be on this show where we're like, oh, did she mess up? She booked 2 black girls on one show? Like, Marianne, what are you doing? So yeah, it's just good in that sense that you never know what the lineup's gonna be, and it's okay to have 3 black girls on one show, or 4 females, or it's like me, Michelle, and Joe all on one show. Like, oh, who would have thought you could have 3 girls on one show?
That's weird. How'd that music stand get here? I don't know, but I guess that could only mean that one person is next. He's the comptroller of Brooklyn, New York. Ladies and gentlemen, Brooklyn's own Eugene Mirman.
Hello! Let's get our finances in order! Oh my God, I've never regretted not having comptroller jokes as much as right now. You ever audit a buddy and you're like, we need enough for the school system. But if you thought I couldn't do the tone of stand-up comedy, you'd be wrong. Alrighty. Hello, hi, great to be here. Hi. Thanks. That was unnecessary. I did a radio tour recently where you call into like 20 radio shows, morning shows across the country. And it's fine. It sounds terrible, but it's actually fine. I didn't make it sound good, but and they're very energetic. And there's some places that play games. There's one place where you call and they just yell like, "Aardvark or Weasel," and you're like, I don't know what that means. They're like, "Ah, that's right. We're just yelling." Cool, but there was like the 10th interview I did. They didn't, it's fine. They didn't know much about me, but they saw in my bio that I was born in Russia. So the guy, like one of the two, the guy started going, "I'm from Russia, do you know Stalin?" He was just like, what's Stalin's favorite food? Like this crazy morning energy, but about Stalin. And all like how we're buddies. So like, Stalin! He's doing that. And it's like 7:30 in the morning. And I decided that what I would do is try to make it as uncomfortable as I could. So as he's going, did you ever know Stalin? I just went, Stalin killed a lot of my family. It was great. I felt like I got back a little at Stalin. I got married recently. Yeah. You're welcome. And it's funny because it was like the whole thing was, sort of this like blur, and a lot of people being like, congratulations, and then me just being like, this is the most forks I've ever rented. Which is true. I have a thing that that happens to me a lot now, where whenever I'm in a store, people think I work there, and like regardless, like I was at the public market in Milwaukee at the like their spice shop, and a lady points at some Himalayan sea salt and was like, oh, what's that? And I'm like, Himalayan sea salt, and she's like, oh, what do you do? And I'm like, well, it's like a slab and you could grill on it and stuff. And she's like, oh, is it a substitute for salt? And I'm like, no, it's some people think it's the purest form of salt. And then she's like, oh, how much is it? I was like, oh, I'm just the guy who happens to know about salt. I don't... Like, I wanted to go, like, it's $16. Take it. Run, run, run! The time that it happened that was sort of the weirdest was where I was in Rome, in Italy, in a shoe store, and I was eating some coconut that I bought on the street. I had a little cup of coconut, and a lady comes up to me and she points at some shoes and then says something in Italian. And I don't know, like, I don't speak Italian. I don't even know how to say, like, I don't speak Italian. And so I look at her and in English go like, oh, I don't speak Italian. And then she, to my surprise, points at the shoes and in English goes, how much do these cost? She was like, I get that you don't speak Italian, but there is no way you don't work at this shoe store. There used to be a sign in the bathroom where we record Bob's Burgers that, like, yeah, you're welcome for it. Thank you very much. There was a sign in the bathroom stall that kind of was like, hey, if you pee everywhere, you clean it up. Like a weird, and it was like official looking. And I always thought it was so crazy that it was like, yeah, I know. But why? And it made me obsessed with the idea of putting up official-looking signs in bathrooms all over the city. And I kind of was like, well, anybody can put up a random sign in a thing, but how do you make it like seem like, oh, this is an official thing? And I decided it was lamination. Lamination was what separated just like a goofball from like, oh, this business means business. So I've been going around New York City and in restaurants and cafe bathrooms putting up official-looking signs with little things that people should do. And here are the signs I've been putting up, and you'll probably see them around. So this is one. This is, please wash feet before returning to work. Please do not flush socks down toilet. Do not use your cell phone ever again. Walk out of here crying and ask for a lawyer. Divorce is not an option. It's normal to feel Jewish, even if you're not. This is a great one to put up not far in here in Park Slope. Your child is being raised wrong. It was so nice to think about how mad somebody was like, please wash your hands, and then this, and they're like, my child is fine. And then a favorite of mine, there are officially no more snakes here. Thanks. Any questions so far? Maybe there'll be some now. Any questions? It's okay to have some. Also, it's super reasonable that you don't. But I'm gonna ask one more time. Does anyone have any questions? Yes, there we go.
How are you hanging up the signs?
How am I hanging up the signs? You're gonna be blown away when you find out about masking tape. Did you know you could make a little loop and then both sides become sticky? And if I wanted to go the extra distance, I could buy double-sided tape. But I like that question because of how much it forgets about office supplies. Any other questions about any? Yes, sir.
Where did you get the laminator machine?
Where did I get the laminator machine? Good question. I bought it at 4th Avenue and 3rd Street at Staples, about 12 blocks from right here. So, pretty real, huh? Guess what? It took me only about an hour and 40 minutes to figure out how to fully and accurately use a laminating machine. Where the first time I was like, too many air bubbles, and by the end I was like, this is gonna look very professional. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am?
Did you write it off as a business expense?
Yes. Other than this bit, what do I need a laminating? Like, I'm not making tons of IDs for people who come to my house, where I'm like, you're gonna need this if you hope to get upstairs. Of course, it's absolutely a business expense. Now I sound like a libertarian. Any other questions? Yes.
Do you put the paper down when you sit on the toilet seat?
Do I put the paper down when... No, I will pee on the seat first. That would not be a way to sanitize. Sometimes. It depends how many people it appears have pooed on it. I hover over it and pee everywhere like a lady. Great. I'm glad that's been recorded. One last question before I finish my sweet bit. Oh, yes, sir. Yes, thank you for addressing me by name. Like I'm a really nice politician.
What's the difference between a libertarian and a Republican?
What's the difference between a libertarian and a Republican? 24%. Almost a great answer. Like, if it made sense, it would have been a really great answer. Well, libertarians believe in a bunch of stuff that's like across, like, they're like, we don't need a fire department and it's okay if no one can afford eggs. Republicans are just like, taxes! Republicans would enter a war, libertarians would try to avoid it. Now you know. I'm not saying that sometimes you need to enter a war, just tell Hitler. Don't tell him that you're... Anyway, you get it. Last thing I would like to do is... So I released an album that is 9 volumes. It's 7 LPs. It's called I'm Sorry, You're Welcome. So the first volume is just stand-up, but then there's a bunch of different volumes, and I wanted to sort of share and play some of the stuff for you. So one of the second volume is sound effects, and here's one of the sound effects. Here you go. Cat purring. I made all the sound effects with my mouth. Here's another sound effect. A Jewish person saying oy vey wrong. Oy voy. Accurate. I have a whole volume where I teach Russian, and here's just a short excerpt of me teaching some Russian. You smell like trash. Ты пахнешь как мусор. Your husband smells like trash. Твой муж пахнет как мусор. Your whole family smells like trash. Вся твоя семья пахнет как мусор. Your band, the Black Crows, smells like trash. Твоя музыкальная группа, the Black Crows, пахнет как мусор. And the last thing before I leave, there is a volume of outgoing messages and ringtones. So I want you to imagine that you're at Macy's and your mom calls and this is what you hear. Go on iTunes and get my album. Good night, thank you very much. Bye-bye. Eugene Mirman. I recently, I was reading this thing. There are over 12,000 bodegas in New York City. I just found that out. There are over 12,000 bodegas in New York, and they're starting to close down, and those numbers are starting to shrink because rents are going up and bodegas are getting pushed out, which that is really bad news if you have stock in Cashy cereal, because bodegas seem to be the only place that keeps that awful thing afloat. Weird cereal / spackle exists. Like my bodega, I never has Cinnamon Toast Crunch, but has like 8 flavors of Cashy cereal, which you don't need 8 flavors. Like they're all anybody is using Cashy cereal to do is just smuggle drugs in it. That's what it is. Like I'm assuming that's what it is. Like we've moved beyond smuggling drugs in coffee cans to throw dogs off the scent. Now you just put it in Cashy cereal. Dogs can still smell it. They just don't want to fuck with it because it's disgusting. It is kind of sad though that bodegas are starting to close down, and if they go away, because bodegas do actually, they serve a purpose in neighborhoods. Like, yeah, you can go get, expired eggs there, but also they do things like they'll collect packages for people in the neighborhood, or, they give loans to people in the neighborhood. And also bodegas are a great place to go if you're ever being chased by an axe murderer who's allergic to cats. I feel like those are the true victims of this sort of squeezing out of bodegas are bodega cats. Because bodegas are really the highest employer of cats, if you think about it. And so I reached out to some bodegas and just tried to see if I could get someone who was willing to come out and talk to us and just let you all know about what's going on. So without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce George. George, come on out here. George. Hey, George. Yeah. George, yeah. Hey, George. Yeah. Hey, George. Hey. Oh, all right, yeah.
Hey, meow. How you doing? Thanks so much for having me. Meow.
Yeah.
Meow.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. It's not often that this issue gets any attention at all, and you're one of the guys out there at the forefront, and I really appreciate it. Meow, meow, meow.
No, yeah, you're welcome. That's awesome that you're here and that you're just letting people know about what's going on with these cats.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a serious problem, and it's obviously look, don't get me started about New York real estate and what it's doing to the bodegas.
Sure, have you noticed anything, as far as the cats, like what happens to these cats once they
it's a total struggle. I mean, for especially, and I feel it big time, obviously.
Are you a bodega owner?
No, I'm a bodega cat.
Wait, you're speaking on behalf of bodega cats.
Well, yeah, as their spokesperson, they would have a hard time speaking for themselves.
Sure, but you're
Meow,
not.
get
But I'm
it,
just saying
yeah.
you're not a bodega cat.
Well, I mean, I work in a bodega as a cat.
Wait. Hold on. You work in a bodega as a cat.
That's correct. I work in a bodega as a cat. I mean, I've done it for the last 9 years, and I love the job, and bodegas are closing up left and right, as you know, especially in Manhattan and everywhere, all the boroughs. And I don't want to lose, my job. And I also want to look out for the other cats out there who some of whom are my friends.
Sure, but I'm sorry. It's just weird that like you're a man. There are other jobs. You stole a job from a cat.
Well, I mean, that's like one way to look at it, but that's the wrong way to look at it.
There are so many other jobs you could have done as a human. Like, why fucking be a bodega cat? No offense.
Well, one, I'm good at it, and
All right, fair enough. Okay.
And I think my boss, Ruben, could attest to that. Meow, Ruben, if you're out there. I don't know if you are.
Can I just ask, how'd you get into that line of work?
Well, I was in the musical Cats.
All right, sure.
Then that closed a while ago. And since that closed, that was hard getting work as an actor. And then I went through some legal issues here in New York, but I had played a cat on Broadway. Well, not technically, I was a stand-in, but I did do a few shows in Cats.
Who were you standing for?
Oh, I did a bunch. I was a utility guy, mostly Pouncible.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Skimble Shanks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
The magical Mr. Mustache.
Oh, wow.
It goes back a long way. I haven't done that.
Did you ever, you did Mr. Mistopheles?
Well, I actually did not do Mr. Mistopheles.
Oh, okay. All right.
But
All
I did know the part, and I understudied for a lot of them. So.
Okay, Rum Tum Tugger?
No. Do I look like a RTT to you? No. No, sir. No.
Why not then just go on the road with cats? Like, you're a utility cat, you can do a lot of roles, just go on the road.
Well, like
tours.
I said, I had some legal issues here in New York, and I'm not actually...
What kind of legal issues do you have as a bodega cat, man?
Well, there's a ton of shit that happens at the bodega, which I don't want to talk about.
I mean, no, like you're just like catching mice,
but
right?
I don't really do that kind of cat work.
So wait, you work in a bodega as a cat, but you don't catch mice?
No, I don't do that kind of stuff. That would be a job for an actual cat. I do mostly, IT stuff, and I work on the website, and I will also do some homeless outreach. But there are obviously a lot of homeless people who do come in, and I'm the guy who talks to them and tries to get them out, subtle. Be like, hey, like, meow, like... hey, follow me.
All right. Yeah.
So there you go.
Okay. And then, I guess, okay, you've proven yourself as a bodega cat. Do you want to talk to people about just what the dangers are for bodega cats that are now sort of getting put out on the street?
I mean, I'd like to do some, like, stand-up comedy, if you don't mind, because I haven't...
Wait. Hold on, no, he was here as an advocate.
Thank you. I mean, yeah, totally, as an but I've, I would do comedy. It's what the show is. I've seen a bunch of comedians come out and do their thing, so I figured, like, why not give it a shot, right?
Yeah, I mean, do you guys, is it cool if he does?
Thank you.
All right. This is his first time, so, be supportive as you can to a cat.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Yeah, no problem.
So I haven't done a ton of stand-up, obviously, and most of my background is musical theater. But that's not happening.
rumpus cat?
That's not happening right now, so I didn't know I was going to get heckled by the host. I guess that's
I
part
didn't know a cat was gonna take over my show and do comedy.
Well, I didn't take it over, all right? I just, whatever. I didn't know the host was an asshole. Meow. Anyway. So, yeah. I am a bodega cat, thank you. Meow. I finally, I've been doing that for like 9 years. I finally looked up what that word means in Spanish, and it means don't eat the fucking buffet. Meow. I'm half Siamese and half tabby. But I consider myself a liberal. That's why I support Black Cat Matters. Hey, they gotta live a life too, right? So I am.
I would have called it 9 Lives Matters, but whatever.
Hey, thanks for ruining my next joke. So, my boss, right? Fucking my boss. Yeah. My boss, Ramon, he's always like, oh, hey, George, where you going? And I'm like, you know where I'm going, Ramon. To sleep on a fucking can of tomatoes in the back. Because you got pissed off when I brought you half a mouse. Meow. Oh, yeah, my boss. My fucking boss. Oh, I love this guy. My boss, he's like a big sports fan, all right? You know, so I follow sports. Me, like I follow a laser pointer. You know, I'm really into the spectacle, but I don't know how it works. What else do we got here? So I've been trying to date, you know, like I've been trying to date a lot. You know, I've been going into the alley to meet some new cats. You know, I met this calico that was pretty cute. You know, I swiped right. She clawed me in the face.
You wanna do like 2 more, or are you done?
2?
1?
1 would be great.
You're the one who wanted to come out here and do comedy.
A limited amount of material, buddy. All right? You'll come out here. I just did like, I'm doing really well. Thank you. What else? What else? What do we got in the news? What do we got in the news? What's going on out there in the newspapers? Oh, I love the paper. Yeah. What's on the paper? Cat pee. My cat pee, because that's where I pee. Meow! All right, thank you, everybody. I've been George.
No! Keep your butt away from me. George the Bodega Cat, everybody. George the Bodega Cat. We really have to do a better vetting job when we book these people. That one's on you, Marianne. You guys ready for more show? Yeah! All right. This next comedian, a treat to have her here. She also lives here in Brooklyn. And this is true, she believes that James Taylor is a robot. Ladies and gentlemen, Joe Firestone.
Hi. I mean, how else would he put out so many songs? My name is Joe. It's so nice to be here. Thanks for watching my opener. Yeah, this is great. Like me and that cat, we go all over the world. It's so crazy. It's a real hit everywhere. It's so nice to be here. It's so nice. I'm so honored to be among such wonderful comedians. It's like a really good show. You guys paid like what? You got paid to be? I mean, it's honest. It's so good. So you guys like jokes? Okay. Okay. Let's see. You guys ever think about how the? Do you guys ever think about? Do you guys ever think about how the first guy to get a 20-ounce soda was like, do I share this? Okay, I think that's pretty much good enough. Okay, good. So listen, that was a ruse. Really, I'm just here to pitch a game show. Okay, so listen, NBC. Okay, so we're watching. Listen, I know this is nice to do stand-up, but you can. Okay, so here. Okay, this is an opportunity of a lifetime. I had to take it. I'm so sorry. Okay, so Okay, so this is a game show, and I made it up. Okay, NBC. Okay, so now listen, it's a game show, and I made it up, and it's called is this one? Which one should I look at to talk to NBC? Okay, listen, this game show is this. I'm gonna forget about you. This game show is called I Have Been There, okay? And what I want to do is I want to say things that I'm personally uncomfortable with, and then if the audience is also uncomfortable with it, they're just going to yell out, I have been there. Look, I made cards, and it's got like an abbreviation like everything in the future does. Okay, you ready? Okay, so you're just going to shout out, I have been there if you've experienced this as well. And if you win, you win, listen, this is cutting edge. Okay, so if you win, that means you have the most I have been there. It's pretty simple. Okay? Okay, here we go. Okay, what do you win? Great question, NBC. The winner right now is, we're just gonna do a sample game. They're gonna get hot dollar, but that's gonna stay hot for right now. But just so you know, it's going to be a lot more once it gets picked up. Okay, so here we go. Okay, everyone understands the game? Okay, here, okay, let's see. Sometimes you smile at people in elevators and then you're like, why'd I do that? Your body gets cold, but then why are you still sweating? You've taken an entire burrito into bed with you and you lay down and you ate it like a goddamn farm animal. Later you found rice in your blankets and you ate the rice from your blankets. Okay. You're afraid of dying mostly because what if it is happening when you're naked? You eat sad foods like mayonnaise as a dip. You talk to dogs like they're babies, you talk to babies like they're dogs. Even when you're surrounded by people, you eat apples like you're some wet apple goblin. Guys, honestly, don't picture me. Picture Howie Mandel. Okay, here. Okay. Let's see. You've tried on so many clothes, but none of them fit because they all kind of look like your body. You've said, "Man, was I thirsty," out loud after drinking a glass of water alone. Sometimes you think people are giving you a dirty look, but they're not. They're just looking back at you the way you're looking at them. The way you eat Oreos is disgusting. How are you doing on points?
I'm like at 10.
Okay, all right, okay. If anyone beats 10, you know what you are. Okay, winning. Okay. Let's see. You go to Trader Joe's to buy something like yogurt, and you leave Trader Joe's with something called chocolate pasta and no yogurt. You have a friend named Emily, and she's nicer than you, and that's why you hate her. We're just moving right along with these guys. I mean, can you imagine the half hour? Okay. You ever see yourself in the mirror butt naked except you're wearing your ugly socks and you're like, love cannot know this. You cannot spell accommodate, but it's what you're best at in your interpersonal relationships. Is anyone winning so far? This middle section forgot how to play. Okay, here we go. Keep it going. Finals. Okay, we're going into the finals. Okay, you asked someone out and they were like, no, I just want to be friends. And you're like, no, we're no longer friends. Okay, you don't know what PR is, but you do know that you like Claire Danes because she seems smart. Okay, at this point, I feel like there'd be like a lot of fog. And maybe one of those risers, you know what I mean? Like the vacuum, you know what I mean? Where it's like, does anyone work in do you know what I'm saying though? You know what I mean? Like, what did you say? Hydraulics? Hydraulic lift? Could you tell them? No, just tell them. It's gonna sound like I don't know what I'm talking about.
Cue the hydraulic lift.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Yes. Okay, cue the hydraulic lift, okay? Every time you get out of the subway, you touch your eyes and then you think, why'd I do that? Okay. Okay, now this is like a tiebreaker just in case you're tied and anyone's tied. This is just you thought you were called to be Queen of the Squirrels because they look at you directly in the eye and they don't do that to everyone.
I've been a lot of those places.
You thought you were called to be Queen of the Squirrels?
More like king.
You thought you were called to be King of the Squirrels?
Yeah.
That means a lot. Okay, so now we gotta pick a winner. We have a winner in our midst, NBC. So guys, we gotta pick a winner. So it's just a real easy thing. Everybody, take your little paw, cover your eyes, okay? Take your little paw and cover your eyes, okay? It takes a lot of vulnerability. Take your little paw and cover your motherfucking eyes, okay? All right? Okay? Take your little paw and cover your motherfucking eyes. You think I'm joking here? I said one joke, and that was at the beginning, okay? Now, if you think you're the winner. Go ahead and raise your little paw. Raise it. Yeah, yes, ladies and gentlemen, we have several winners in our midst, but this guy is closest to me. Congratulations, you're the winner. It's the one. Go on, stand up, please, and just right. Wow, yes. This is huge. Guys, keep an eye out for that show. I think it's going to be on NBC Digital in 2075 when TV's obsolete, but games keep going. Guys, thanks so much for having me.
We got more show. It's always a treat when this next comedian's here. She's wonderful. She and I like to go on the train together and pretend we're siblings and get into a giant fight and see who takes whose side on the train. It's a fun game. Ladies and gentlemen, Michelle Buteau.
Wyatt has the coolest style. I mean, if I wore that hat, I just look like an Erica Badu. Like, this is the only thing I could do, just like a plus-size onesie. That's like where my style stops. And this zipper is so hard to keep together. This is like one of those suitcases that is packed too much, like 54 pounds, you know what I mean? You gotta take the extra 4 out because they're gonna charge you. So I'm originally from Jersey. I don't usually tell people, they don't care. They're like, is that a speech impediment? I'm like, no, it's Trenton. And growing up in Jersey was interesting, especially the part of Jersey I'm from, because, you okay? All right. No, it's okay, get drunk, knock shit over. You look great. You look like an out-of-work yoga teacher. I love it. You're like, I'm so fucked up. But namaste, bitches. So the part of Jersey I'm from is Central Jersey. It's sort of like the Midwest, but with like a Northeastern attitude. Like it's super white. Like it's so white. Like, you know, like there's a lot of Italians and a lot of Irish. And if you were Polish, you were exotic. You're like, ooh, Marta, tell me more about these pierogies. And in my neighborhood, there was like one Indian family, one black family, and then there was us. And I'm Jamaican and Haitian, and people just didn't understand what a light-skinned Caribbean person was. They were just like, shouldn't you be darker? I'm like, what? Like, that's called colonialism. Get off my dick. Like, they would say things like, shouldn't you have like a basket of fruit on your head? And I'm like, what? And that was my guidance counselor. I'm like, what? I was like, get me out of here. And so I applied to like a bunch of colleges in Miami. So I was like, that's where I'm gonna go. And this was the mid-90s. So I wanted to go to Miami so badly. And I was also like this wannabe gangsta bitch. You know what I mean? I was like so angry. And I just wore these crazy baggy clothes, like a lot of Carl Kanai, a lot of cross colors, a lot of like, who you calling a bitch? Like, it was a lot of that. Malcolm X pen don'ts. I had the Malcolm X book in my back pocket. I never read it, but I was like, do the right thing. Just so angry for no reason. My friends would be like, I'm not going out with you, girl. This is a new shirt and you crazy. I'm not trying to get in a fight. Like, I would be at a restaurant. I'd be like, who's she looking at? I know she ain't looking at me. Who the fuck is she looking at? And they'd be like, relax, that's our waitress. Why are you so crazy? And I also love to dance. Like, that was my thing. Like, I wanted to be a fly girl for In Living Color. Does anyone know, like, In Living Color? Because all y'all look real young. I did. I wanted to be, like, a backup dancer for, like, a young usher. Just be like, my way, where I sing goes. Right. It was a lot better, but the tits were smaller. So anyways, it was so heavy. And I got into a school in Miami, and it was amazing. It was called Florida International University, and international wasn't even the word. Like, I felt so smart, because people would be like, oh my God, your English is so good. I'm like, oh, I'm American. Like, I was the only American. And I loved living in Miami because, like, I could be Jamaican and Haitian and nobody cared, nobody asked. They're like, of course you are. I'm like, of course I am. And like the air was warm and there was palm trees everywhere and even my fart smelled like pineapple. I was like, this is great. Everywhere I went, it was Gloria Estefan, like, the rhythm is gonna get you. And I was like, when? I want that rhythm to come and get me. And it was great. It was like the Caribbean Cosby Show, but without the rape. And I loved it. I did, I loved it. And one night I went out my freshman year at college dancing to a teeny bopper place. It was like 17 to 20. I had so much grape soda. I'm like, I'm ready to do this thing. And I was out dancing, doing my things with my girls. I'm just like, you know, like DMX, all this, all day. And that's where I saw the most beautiful man I had ever seen. He was like so tall, so juicy looking. He had like this crazy curly hair, like house party, but like with a job. I was like, what? And he had like these khaki pants on, super baggy, and like this polo shirt, but it wasn't like a clearance polo shirt. It was like regular sale. And I was like, oh my God. And then he had like this long hanging, you are judging, boo-boo. He's like, yes. He had on this crucifix. It was like this chain. It was so low and it was bouncing. I was like, put it in my face. And then he had like this like green camo fishing vest that was super baggy that moved with him. And he didn't fish, but I didn't care. And I was like, yes. I just looked at that vest. I was like, so many pockets! And at that moment, I was like just trying to get his attention, like as a 17-year-old angry girl. I was just like, like just trying to do whatever I could. I was like, oh, look at how I work it. No. And finally, I caught his attention, and he like danced on over to me, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm on a romantic call. And we danced like we were auditioning for a dumb ghetto Footloose. And it was amazing. I just smelled like Jacquard Noir off his neck, and I was like, oh my God, this is what love is. And I could not stop dancing with him, and at the end, I gave him my number, and I was like, beat me. Oh, I know, I'm 38. That's like Puerto Rican grandma age, I get it. So he was like my everything. I was like, oh my God, this is what love is. This is what the songs talk about. Like, this is what the R. Kelly video is about. Like, I was like, this is, like, I don't know when you guys found your first true love. Were you in high school? No? Okay, were you in college? Have you guys ever been loved? So anyways, this was my first true love, and I was like, oh my God, like he was the first guy I did everything with sexually, you know, for like a while. Like I hooked up, but I never had been in a relationship and done like a lot of sex stuff. Like he was the first guy ever to be like, come sit on my face. So he was like, come sit on my face. And I was like, what? So I did. And then he's like, get up, I can't breathe. I need directions. So now like a couple years have passed by and we are just so in love. I'm like, you know, naming our kids that aren't even born. And I noticed in his house, the walls aren't like, there isn't pictures everywhere. You know what I mean? It's so different from my house and his friend's house. Like my house, you know, there's pictures of me and my graduation and field trips and stuff like that. And like back in the day, you didn't have a camera on your phone. So you had to get pictures printed, right? Cut them out, make a little collage, hang it up and be like, look at all the friends I got. Like that's what you did. And if you were a good friend like me, you'd get doubles and give your friend some doubles and be like, look, bitch, here you go. I upgraded, okay? From glossy to matte just for you. Nobody went to Rite Aid and got that shit printed. But my boyfriend, he didn't have a collage. I was like, boo-boo, what's up with your collage game? We need to get this on point. And he's like, I don't give a fuck. I'm like, you are so sexy. So, We were about 3 years into this relationship, right? And I had a dream one night, a really bad dream. My mom told me it's because I had spicy food. That he told me that he never graduated high school. And I was like, what? So I called him the next day. I was like, boo, I had a crazy dream that you told me you never graduated high school. And he's like, I didn't. And I was like, what? And he's like, and honestly, Michelle, I don't even know how to read very well. And I was like, the fuck? And then he told me this crazy story. Like, I knew that his dad had passed away when he was younger, but, you know, his dad passed away when he was 10 and left the family with a lot of debt, and his mom had to work 3 jobs. And he was really depressed and just, like, dropped out of school. And his mom never even noticed or cared to pay attention, so he didn't even know how to read very well. And in my mind, I was just like, oh my God, I'm gonna stay with you. Like, I need to help you. Because my parents been married for 48 years and they're dead inside. I'm like, that's what love is. You know what I mean? Like, I turned into a Coldplay song. I was like, and I will try. Like, I was like, I'm gonna fix you. And so I stayed with him and I tried to help him. But this is when you know you got to leave a relationship. When you start saying shit like, but you said you learned how to read for me. Like, you gotta go. Like, that ain't cute. And so I'm graduating college at this point. We've been together like 4.5 years. It took me a little extra time to graduate college. And I'm moving to New York, and he's still in Miami. And I know that I should break up with him, but I can't, because you ever had that relationship, it takes you like a whole year to break up? Like, they're your first phone call and your last phone call. It just takes a long time. Thanks, guys. And I'm just like, the whole time I'm with him, I'm just going back in my mind like a low-budget like CSI detective. I'm like, how does he not know how did I not know? Like, oh my God, you know, is that why he orders the same thing every time we go to the Olive Garden? Because he doesn't know how to read the menu. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, is that why he makes me read my poetry to him? I thought he was a lazy guy. He doesn't know how to read. So don't feel sorry for him. There's YMCAs everywhere. So I moved to New York. We're still talking and stuff like that. He's still in my life. He gives me like a hot cell phone. We have like matching stolen cell phones from Best Buy. I don't know why. I thought it was hot. I felt like Carmela Soprano. I was like, okay. So we're both on the bed. The phone rings. I pick it up. I don't even know it's him. There's a girl on the other line, and she's like, is he there? And I was like, who dis? And she goes, who dis? And I go, who dis? And she goes, who dis? And this happened way too long because we knew who the fuck this was. But I knew exactly what was happening. I hung up the phone, and I had like an Angela Bassett Hound moment from Waiting to Exhale, shoop, shoop. I was like, get your shit, and get out! Like, I just kicked him out. And he's like, how do I get to JFK? I'm like, get the fuck out! Like, just kicked him out. And she calls me back on my cell phone because this bitch is resourceful. And she says some shit I don't like wish on my worst enemy. She goes, Michelle, you don't know anything about me, but I know everything about you. And I was like, what? She's like, I know your grandma's birthday is March 1st, and she lives in Jamaica because your parents and you go every year for her birthday, and, you know, homeboy gets to house at your house, and I fucked him in every room in your parents' house. Yes. She said a lot of shit after that was like white noise. I hung up the phone, did some prison push-ups. A la Queen Latifah set it off. And I went to like the nearest restaurant. It was like an Asian restaurant, I don't even remember. And there was a Village Voice there. And I opened up the Village Voice and I saw a class for stand-up. I was like, I'm gonna do that. I don't know why. I was like, I'm gonna take stand-up class. And I did. And my first joke was about him. Do you wanna hear it? Well, all right, that'd be so awkward if you were like, not really. Okay. This is my first joke. Lines at Disney World remind me of my ex-boyfriend. 3 hours of waiting for a 2-minute ride. Come on, that's pretty good for a first joke. You guys are. This is not The Voice, okay? You were just sleeping. I don't have time. But like, it felt so good to get it off my chest and write jokes about him. Like, I couldn't stop. Like, all my jokes were about him. I started blogging about him because that was a thing. And my friends were like, girl, you need to be careful. You're using his first and last name. I was like, I don't give a fuck. That motherfucker can't even read. Good night, bitches.
Michelle Buteau, everybody. Make some noise for all the comics you saw tonight. Michelle Buteau, Joe Firestone, Eugene Mirman, Joyelle Johnson, Jon Benjamin. Make some noise for Don Will. Everybody here at Littlefield, Marianne, Ben, all the bartenders, thank you guys so much for coming out. Have a great night.
Guys, great job. Bye, Will.
Bye, good to see you.
Okay, I should just bring Tupperware when I do this show now.
Goodbye. 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 All my friends are over here.
Oh yeah, I'd love to talk about Marianne.
Who is she?
Who is Marianne? Who is Marianne? I'm asking you, who is Marianne? I don't know who Marianne is.
She booked you on the show tonight?
Oh, the woman I spoke to on the phone? Yeah, that's who Marianne is. She books people on the phone. She's good at it. She's good on the phone. I rue the day when there'll be no more phones, because Marianne, I will be like, what am I gonna do? I'll have no job. I won't be able to call people on the phone and book them. I'll be replaced by a robotic booker.